how many of you are as tired of food sensitivities as I am? We start with having a food sensitivity to a few things, and then the list just grows longer and longer no matter what we do. Not eating, what we are eating, it doesn't matter. My food sensitivity list has gotten larger through the years, and my food sensitivities tend to be really weird, like green tea. I can't drink it at all. Zucchini, you name it, I probably have a food sensitivity to it, which is why I tried all of the diet, AIP, and all of the other diets around that, but none of them really worked for me because my food sensitivities were coming from different types of foods than what those particular autoimmune protocols were targeting. However, I accidentally found a solution. Like everything else I've talked about on this channel, I've either accidentally figured it out or just tried something and it happened to work. So let's talk about what the heck is helping with my food sensitivities. Now, I tried MSM powder for a different protocol. It had nothing to do with food sensitivities. It had nothing to do with anything surrounding food sensitivities. I was on MSM for a different reason. About the same time, I went on vacation and kept taking the MSM. Now, on the protocol, you start with 1/4 teaspoon of MSM. Then you work your way up until you reach about 3 teaspoons if that's what's needed. I was on vacation. I worked my way up, and all of a sudden I realized I was not having the typical food sensitivities that I would normally have on a vacation, because let's be real, on vacation you end up eating everything you're not supposed to eat and then some. And on most vacations, by the end of it, I am miserable, can't walk, my ankles are swollen, you name it, joints are hurting, every food sensitivity, I eat it on vacation. As much as I love to say I don't ever eat anything that I'm not sensitive to, I am human, and there are times that we eat the things we're not supposed to eat, like dairy, wheat, whatever it is that I'm sensitive to, different types of vegetables. The one thing I typically won't have is the green tea, because I never really liked it to begin with. I was only drinking it to be healthy. Turns out my body hated it anyway. After I came off of vacation, I realized that I did really well and had absolutely no food sensitivities, absolutely none, which was shocking and very, very different. Only thing I had changed in my protocol was the MSM powder, and I had worked my way up. I was on about 2 to 3 teaspoons at the time that I noticed all of my food sensitivities, or just about all of them, had stopped. In fact, it was too good to be true. I absolutely could not believe that the food sensitivities did not bother me my entire vacation. I continued to take the MSM powder, got off of it, and then got back on it and tested it again. And sure enough, all of the food sensitivities stopped. Now, when I first started trying the MSM powder, I was having a lot of problems with my right ankle becoming very swollen when I ate certain foods. And I wasn't even sure which foods were causing it every single time. I just knew no wheat, no dairy. We go through the exhaustive list of all the things we can't eat. But I noticed that the right ankle cleared up. It was no longer swollen, and I could walk on it perfectly fine no matter what I was eating. Now, I haven't had enough time to fully research why MSM is taking away all of the food sensitivities, but there's a little bit of information online about it. And what it seems to be doing for me is raising the threshold before my body has an allergic reaction. And by allergic reaction, I mean the food sensitivity. It is a type of reaction. So all of the foods that was setting me off before to have an inflammatory process, that threshold has now been moved up. So I'm not as sensitive. I don't have as many food sensitivities as I did before I started taking the MSM powder. Now, there's a lot of talk about how we're depleted in sulfur. I'm not sure we need 3 teaspoons a day. So what I'm planning on doing is gradually backing down to see if maybe 1 teaspoon a day is enough once I've worked my way up. But I don't know. I'm not even at that point yet. All I know is my food sensitivities are almost 100% gone. And I said almost, because on most days I do really, really well. But if you bombard your body with a ton of food that set off inflammatory processes or set off our food sensitivity reactions, eventually it will overpower the MSM. So with me, it's moving the threshold up so that I have a lot less reactions. It doesn't mean I can eat everything and anything that I want all the time and never have any consequences or food sensitivity showed up, but it does move the threshold. So it's not every single day I'm having some kind of food sensitivity reaction, and I'm reacting to do less and less of the foods or different types of foods. How I plan to use this in my daily life is to supplement with the MSM powder daily so that I have to be less careful with some of my choices and can be a little more normal, a little more, not 100% normal, but a little bit more. I'm not saying you can throw caution to the wind and load up on a whole bunch of wheat and dairy, but this just gives me a little bit more room to be a little bit more normal and not have to be so careful with so many food boundaries, which I hate. Now, since it worked so well, I leveled up and picked up as much as I could from bulk supplements. And I started my husband on the same protocol because he seems to have a wheat sensitivity as well. I will then see if it helps other members of my family that also have wheat and different food sensitivities. How I applied the protocol was I started with 1/4 of the teaspoon. I wasn't very sensitive to it. I quickly moved up to 1/2 teaspoon, eventually worked my way to 1 teaspoon, kept continuing to add a little bit each day. And as I could, moved to 2 teaspoons. And on some days, I'm able to move to 3 teaspoons of MSM powder. However, I don't plan to stay at 3 teaspoons a day on MSM powder. I plan to start working my way back down to see where my actual threshold is. How much MSM powder do I actually need in a day? And if I plan to have something that I know might cause a food sensitivity reaction, I tend to take 1/2 teaspoon of MSM powder before I eat the meal. I've been waiting to speak on this because I'm not exactly sure why or how it's working. And I was actually blown away that it worked as well as it did for food sensitivities. In fact, I had no idea that's what this was going to do when I started the actual protocol. I've read that some of us can be sensitive to MSM powder. So you want to start very, very slow and work your way up slowly. And it did take about a week before I started noticing the food sensitivities going down. If you have food sensitivities, this is something you might want to try. I am blown away at how well it has worked for me and how it helped me through my entire vacation. It's a supplement I plan to keep in my regimen and play around with the dose a little bit to optimize my days. I'll speak more on this matter as I figure out more and more and have the time to research it. But for right now, I'm super happy with the MSM powder. In fact, so happy I started buying it in bulk, and I am weaning my husband onto this slowly so that hopefully it will help with his wheat sensitivities as well. See you guys in the next video. And if you try it, let me know in the comments, and remember to go slow.